I was switched at birth by the nanny. Her granddaughter became the young lady of the Kong family, while I was abandoned by her at the entrance of an orphanage 18 years later. After learning the truth, my parents found me and brought me back to the Kong family, fearing that I would compete for their affection. The fake heiress Kong Fangi began scheming to frame me, causing my parents to grow increasingly disgusted with me. I was already deeply insecure, so I didn't dare resist at all. In the end, I was set up by Kong Fangi, gang-raped by several men, and died in humiliation. Filled with resentment, I was actually reborn on the day my parents found me. Now that everything had started over, how could I let tragedy repeat itself? I resolved to take back everything that belonged to me and kick Kong Fangi into the abyss. 2 o'clock in the morning, I am working the night shift at a convenience store. A Rolls-Royce suddenly pulled up at the door, and a man and a woman got out and came straight to the counter. I gave the two of them a sweet smile. "What can I get for you?" The man frowned at me and said nothing. The woman, however, had tears in her eyes as she handed a piece of paper to me. "You're called Kong Na, right?" I nodded expressionlessly. "Nana, we're your biological parents." I looked down at the paper marked with a paternity test and smiled as I pushed it back. "Ma'am, I think you must have made a mistake. I'm an orphan, no father, no mother." As soon as she heard this, the woman hurriedly wanted to explain, but the man beside her stopped her. "Sorry to bother you, we may really have made a mistake. What are you doing? I'm sure she's our daughter." Ignoring the woman's protests, the man shoved her into the car. Watching the car drive away, I let my smile fade, crumpled the DNA test report in my hand into a ball, and tossed it into the trash can. I had been reborn. Reborn to the day when the Kong father and mother found me. Recalling the miserable death of my previous life, I trembled all over with hatred. In my previous life, after I learned about this matter, I foolishly went back home with them right away, and I just happened to run into Kong Fangi, who was preparing to go abroad for a vacation. Kong Fangi's biological parents, who had found their long-lost daughter, did not intend to send Kong Fangi away, but instead made her my younger sister, the Kong family's second daughter. In front of our parents, Kong Fangi was very warm toward me, and happily kept saying that she now had an older sister. I was moved by the heartwarming scene and really believed what Kong Fangi said. After that, her tea-like behavior deceived our parents again and again, causing my parents to resent me more and more. Even when I was eventually killed by Kong Fangi, they never once suspected Kong Fangi, or did they shed even a single tear for my death. I remember it very clearly. In my previous life, because of my appearance, Kong Fangi temporarily decided not to go abroad to have fun, and spent the entire winter vacation keeping me company. Long periods of time together had made me completely trust her, and I came to treat her as my own younger sister. Back then, I didn't know that I had already fallen into her vicious plan, so this time, I decided to prepare in advance and, with the advantage of being reborn, keep all the initiative in my own hands. After finishing my last shift, I told the boss I was resigning. "I know my parents will come looking for me again, so I have to hide from them. The Kong family wants me back, but not now." Sure enough, the next afternoon, Mrs. Kong called. I hung up right away and texted her to stop harassing me, saying I still had to work. With the Kong family's means, finding me would be far too easy. One night, I was hiding out in the restaurant's kitchen washing dishes when the boss suddenly called me to the storeroom. "Nana, did you offend someone out there?" The boss was called Brother Gene. He was a big bald guy who looked fierce and intimidating, but he was actually a very kind person. "Why would I? I'm just a girl. Who would I offend?" I looked confused, not understanding what Brother Gene meant. Then Brother Gene took out a wad of cash from his pocket and told me, "There are two rich guys outside. They just threw me 2,000 yuan and told me to hand you over, and you say you haven't offended anyone. You've already been put up for a hefty bounty." "Brother Gene, then, are you planning to hand me over?" I asked him timidly. Brother Gene stroked his chin, looking at me, then at the money in his hand. With a heavy sigh, he said, "Forget it, I don't want this extra money today. Brother Gene, you hide in the storeroom, and I'll go out and deal with them." Touched, I nodded and tugged at the hem of Brother Gene's clothes. "Thank you, Brother Gene. When I have money, I'll pay you back 20,000 yuan. Cut it out. Hurry up and find an empty box to hide in." Those two guys are still followed by several men in black suits. "I'm worried they'll come in looking for you." After Brother Gene left, I crouched in the innermost corner of the storeroom and covered myself with cardboard boxes. After about 5 or 6 minutes, the warehouse door was indeed opened. I heard Brother Gene say loudly, "You two wealthy patrons, do you really think I'd bother to lie to you? That little girl really did run out the back door. If you're quick enough, You might still catch up to her now. Why would she run? Mother Kong asked. You'd have to ask yourselves that. I have no idea why she ran. Brother Jean chuckled. Soon, after the hurried footsteps faded away, the storeroom fell quiet. Before long, Jean Go came back. Come out, Nana, they're gone. I came out and saw Jean Go looking at me with obvious concern. Nana, those two don't look simple at all. Tell me, what exactly did you do? Maybe I can help you. His words really touched me. I smiled and shook my head. It's okay, Jean Go, they're my biological parents. I'll hide from them for a couple of days and then go back. I believe you, sure. After hearing that, Brother Jean rolled his eyes and didn't press the issue any further. With my evening part-time job at the convenience store gone, I headed straight back to the rental room after getting off work, but at the alley entrance I had to pass on my way home, I saw that familiar Rolls-Royce. If they're willing to wait, then let them wait. I turned and left, then went back to the restaurant. There's an empty staff dormitory here at Brother Jin's place, and I'm planning to make do there for the night. If I remember correctly, Kong Fangyi's flight is tomorrow morning. Once she's gone, it'll be time for me to go back to the Kong family home as well. When I woke up, it was already noon the next day. After getting up, I took out my phone and sent a message to Kong's mother. Where are you? Kong's mother replied quickly. I just got out of the airport. Nana, you finally replied to me. Can we meet again? They should have just put Kong Fangyi on the plane. Okay, go straight to the city hospital. I want to confirm a few things. Okay, great. Nana, your dad and I will be waiting for you at the city hospital. Seeing her refer to herself and her parents, I couldn't be bothered to reply anymore. Their distrust and indifference in the previous life, I could never easily forget. After I brought up resigning to Brother Jean, I said I needed to make a trip to the city hospital. After hearing that, Brother Jean insisted on driving me there. I couldn't out-argue him, so I agreed. At the entrance of the city hospital, I asked Brother Jean to park the car next to the Rolls-Royce. Nana, don't tell me what you said yesterday was true. Before he even got out of the car, Brother Jean stared at me wide-eyed and asked. I spread my hands and got out of the car. Brother Jean, don't leave yet. Wait for me a moment. After saying that, I looked at Kong's father and mother. Before they could speak, I extended my hand first. Can you lend me 20,000 yuan? The two of them froze for a moment, but under Kong's mother's signal, Kong's father still took out 20,000 in cash from his bag and handed it to me. Take it, Nana, why talk about borrowing? If you're short on money, just take it and spend it. Thank you. After taking the money, I turned around and tossed it into Brother Jin's car. Under Brother Jin's shocked gaze, I turned my back to Father Kong and Mother Kong and raised an eyebrow at him. Brother Jean, I'm returning the money I borrowed from you. You should head back. After Brother Jean left, I turned back to the two of them. Let's do a paternity test. If the results prove that I have nothing to do with you, then please stop bothering me from now on. I'm a poor person, and I don't want to have anything to do with upper-class people like you who regard money as dirt. Okay, this time it was Kung Fu speaking. The power of money and connections is formidable. The appraisal result was supposed to be available only tomorrow, but under Kung Fu's influence, the result came out in just half an hour. Looking at the four large words, confirmed biological parent-child, on the result, I could only deliberately act shocked. You really are my biological parents? Yes. Mother Kong nodded excitedly, pulling me into her arms. Child, you've suffered all these years. Your dad and mom are sorry. Mother Kong burst into tears on my shoulder, and I forced out a few tears as well. Nana, can you come home with us now? Your mom and I will explain to you when we get back about how we lost you. Father Kong had kept a stern face the whole time, but after receiving the report, a rare smile appeared on his face. I was silent for a moment, and under the gaze of the two of them, I finally nodded. Back at the familiar Kong family home, I felt a wave of emotion. Who would have thought that heaven would be so kind to me, giving me the chance to live a second life? The two of them told me what had happened back then. And the reason they knew the truth was that, before the old nanny died, her conscience finally got the better of her, and she told them about it. So, if I understand you right, are you planning to send the nanny's granddaughter away? My words left the two of them momentarily speechless. After hemming and hawing for a long time, Madame Kong finally came over and took my hand. Nana, this is how it is. You are indeed our biological daughter, but Fang Yi grew up in this family from childhood, so she also counts as our daughter. More than 10 years of affection can't just be severed at a snap of the fingers. Besides, that hateful nanny is already dead, so, I understand. I smiled and cut off Madame Kong's words. I was just asking casually, having a companion is nice too, Nana. It's great that you can think that way." Mother Kong looked at Father Kong with a happy expression. "See? I told you our daughter is a reasonable person." Father Kong clearly let out a breath of relief, nodding slightly. As for Mother Kong, who was simple-minded, I actually didn't feel much resistance toward her, but Father Kong, the president of a large conglomerate, couldn't he, in my previous life, see through those little tricks of Kong Fongy? So in fact, he had tacitly approved everything Kong Fongy did to me. Perhaps in his eyes, only Kong Fongy, whom he had raised since childhood, was his real daughter. As for me, I was nothing more than a stranger who happened to carry the Kong family's blood. Because the Spring Festival had just passed, there were often guests coming to our home. Every time someone came over, I would take the initiative to pour tea for Kong's father and the guest. When the guest heard me call Kong's father Dad, they would often ask, "President Kong, is this your daughter? Why does she look so different?" Kong's father looked at me with a satisfied expression and said with a smile, "This is Kong Na, Fongyi's older sister. For some reason, she didn't live with us when she was little, and only came back recently." "I thought so. No wonder I've never seen her before. Your elder daughter looks really nice. She's so gentle and refined at such a young age, just like Mrs. Kong's personality, and at first glance, she also looks somewhat like both you and Mrs. Kong. Of course, after all, she's my biological daughter." Come, have some tea and try the tea my daughter brewed herself." Watching Mr. Kong laugh heartily, I laughed along in my heart as well. Kong Fongy returned 15 days later. "When she comes back, I'll definitely give her a huge surprise." I worked at Brother Jin's restaurant almost every holiday, and over time, by seeing and hearing so much, I also learned a few simple dishes. So every day, as soon as mealtime came, I would cook together with the nanny, Wang Ma. At first, Wang Ma was a little flattered, but after a few times together, she gradually got used to it. "Nana, let Wang Ma take care of cooking from now on. You're in a crucial period in your senior year of high school, so it's better to spend more time on your studies." At the dinner table, Aunt Kong said to me, "It's okay, Mom." I smiled sweetly at her. "I don't have to work part-time anymore, and I have plenty of time to study every day. Besides, I'm willing to cook for you and Dad. That's been my dream since I was little." "Nana, sob, my good baby," sobbed sob. The emotional Kong mother started crying again, repeating, "I'm sorry," to me. Kong father's gaze toward me grew even gentler, and he kept picking the dishes I had stir-fried into his bowl. Time passed in the blink of an eye. There were only 3 days left until school started. At noon today, Kong Fongy stormed into the house in a hurry. "I'm back." "Fongy's back. Did you have fun?" Sigh, "Not at all. It was tiring and boring, and those foreigners all smelled awful. I hate them to death." I was cooking in the kitchen, when I heard the commotion. My hands paused for a moment, and a faint smile no one noticed curved at the corners of my mouth. "Dishes are here, fragrant scallion stir-fried lamb." Kong Fongy was chatting enthusiastically with Mrs. Kong when I appeared beside the dining table carrying a serving plate. "So fragrant, Nana's cooking really keeps getting better." Mrs. Kong came over happily and leaned close to me. "Can Mom have a bite first?" "Of course, I'll put some on Mom's plate for her to eat." After taking a bite of the lamb, Aunt Kong then brought me over to Kong Fongy. "Fongy, let Mom introduce you. This is Kong Na, your older sister." "Older sister? When did I suddenly end up with an older sister? Mom, could it be that you did something to Dad when you were young that you shouldn't have?" "What are you talking about, Fongy? Don't talk nonsense. I'll explain Nana's matter to you in a moment." Mrs. Kong's tone was stern, and her face turned somewhat unpleasant. "Hello, Fongy, Mom and Dad have been mentioning you to me all this time. And you really are even prettier than in the photos." I looked at Kong Fongy, took a handmade hair clip out of my pocket, and handed it to her. "This is the greeting gift I prepared for you, a hair clip I crocheted myself. It's not very expensive, but it's my little token of appreciation. I hope you'll accept it." "What kind of shabby thing is this? It's so tacky it would only lower my value if I wore it." Kong Fongy took the hair clip, glanced at it, and casually tossed it into the trash can. Seeing this, I hurried over to the trash can, picked the hair clip out, and said, Sorry, Fongy, I know this thing isn't worthy of you. When I have money in the future, I'll definitely give you an expensive gift." As soon as I finished speaking, Kong's mother angrily pointed at Kong Fongy. "Kong Fongy, how could you do this? Your sister gave you that gift as a token of her feelings. How could you just throw it away?" "Mom, are you talking about me? You're lecturing me for an outsider?" Kong Fongy asked. pointing at me in disbelief, looking at Kong's mother. "What's wrong with lecturing you? What you just did, was it right?" Before Kong's mother could speak, Kong's father's stern voice came from the doorway of the study. He had been standing there for a while, and he had seen everything Kong Fangi did when she threw the hairpin. "Dad, even you're siding with this person. Who is she exactly? If you don't explain this to me clearly today, I'll never speak to you again." Watching Kong Fangi sit on the sofa, puffed up with anger, I rubbed my already rimmed eyes and said to Madam Kong, "Mom, Aunt Wang still needs my help. I'll head over first." After saying that, I nodded slightly to Mr. Kong again. "Dad, I'm going. Go ahead, be careful, and don't get hurt." Got it, Dad." Before leaving, I glanced at Kong Fangi. Seeing the culprit who had humiliated me to death once again, I felt unusually calm. At lunchtime, Kong Fangi stayed hidden in her room and didn't come out. "Dad, Mom, did you tell Fangi the truth?" Mother Kong sighed and nodded with a worried look. "This has hit Fangi too hard. It's really hard for her to accept it right now." I put down my chopsticks and pinched myself hard under the table, instantly making my eyes turn red. Whoever ran into something like this would have a hard time accepting it. I understand how Fangi feels. "Dad, Mom, maybe I should move out and live somewhere else. That way Fangi might feel a little better, and we can just keep in touch as usual." "No," Father Kong said coldly. "Adults have to learn to accept reality. This is something she must go through. It has nothing to do with you, Nana. You just stay at home and live here in peace. You're not allowed to go anywhere, and I've already arranged a school for you. At the start of term, you'll transfer directly to the private high school that Fangi also attends, and a driver will take you to and from school." Kong's mother chimed in as well. "Yes, Nana. Your dad and I know you're sensible, but let's not talk about moving out anymore. Our family has finally reunited after so much effort, and Mom doesn't want to be separated from you again." I bit my lip and nodded. "Actually, I don't want to be separated from Mom and Dad either. Don't worry, I'll eat to my younger sister in the future and try not to make her overthink things." "Good girl, eat up." Kong's mother gently patted my head. Based on my understanding of Kong Fangi, after finding out she wasn't really the Kong family's precious daughter, she would absolutely not sit idly by, let alone throw a tantrum and go insane. Sure enough, by dinner time, Kong Fangi was sitting beside me with a smile. She kept calling me sister over and over, in such an affectionate tone. She even apologized to me, saying she had stolen my life and was willing to do anything to make it up to me. Looking at her tear-filled eyes and the way she was putting on a performance, I was itching to dump the whole meal in her face. The way she looks now is exactly the same as when I first returned to the Kong family in my previous life. Kong Fangi's parents had also been fooled by her act, and were now looking at the two of us with pleased smiles. Meanwhile, under the table, Kong Fangi was gripping my hands so tightly that her long nails were almost digging into my flesh. Seeing that I wasn't fighting back, she became even more brazen, forcefully dragging both thumbs across my hand and leaving 2 streaks of blood on the back of it at once. "Ah!" I cried out in alarm, sprang up, and stumbled backward, only to trip over the chair and fall to the ground. "Nana!" Mother Kong ran over anxiously and helped me up. "Nana, are you all right? Are you hurt anywhere?" I raised both hands, where 2 clear bloodstains were already seeping blood. "Oh dear, where did you hit yourself, Nana? What's going on here?" Kong Fu also walked over and asked with a frown. This is," I hesitated, then looked toward Kong Fangi's hand. Kong Fu and Kong Mu followed my gaze as well. Seeing this, Kong Fangi hurriedly hid his hands behind his back. Father Kong walked forward and seized Kong Fangi's hand. When he saw the bit of bloodstains still lingering on her fingernails, he let out a cold snort, flung her hand aside, and turned toward the study. "Fangi, come with me." "Oh." Kong Fangi stood up and followed. As she passed by me, she shot me a vicious glare. When Aunt Kong wasn't looking, I let out a mocking laugh inwardly. "This shameless green tea bitch, the fun has only just begun. If I still can't play you to death after living this life over again, I'd be wasting heaven's kind intentions." What Kong Fu said to Kong Fangi, I don't know, but thinking about it, I can also guess. It was at most nothing more than earnest, hard-won persuasion. How could Kong Fu bear to truly blame Kong Fangi? Just like in my previous life, Kong Fu transferred me to the private key high school where Kong Fangi studied. Today is the first day of school. The driver drove us, taking Kong Fangi and me to school. Before we left, Aunt Kong kept reminding Kong Fangi to take good care of me. Kong Fangi raised her hand to promise, but I sneered inwardly. In my previous life, going to school was the beginning of my nightmare. In the first half-month after enrollment, Kong Fangyi didn't really do anything to me. She just deliberately avoided me, isolated me, and tried to embarrass me. That actually suited me just fine. I didn't have time to deal with her right now either. I just wanted to focus on studying. Relying on the memories of my college entrance exam from my previous life, I was sure I could get into the university I wanted to attend this time. This is very important. It concerns my fate afterward. Half a month later, Kong Fangyi, unable to hold back any longer, finally made her move. During the first self-study period that afternoon, the classroom was filled only with the sounds of turning pages and writing. But then a girl suddenly started crying. "Wah, my review materials are gone. Has anyone seen them?" Most people in the classroom ignored her. Only the class monitor went over to ask what had happened. I only looked up at the girl for a moment before lowering my head and continuing to review. "When was the last time you saw the materials? Do you remember?" the class monitor asked. The girl sobbed and said, "It was still there when school got out at noon. I put it in my desk drawer. But now I can't find it no matter how hard I look." The class monitor frowned and walked up to the podium, tapped on the desk, and said loudly, "Everyone, please cooperate. Check your things and see if someone may have taken the wrong one by mistake." Some people casually looked through their desk drawers, then shook their heads and said they didn't have it. More people remained unmoved and kept studying, too lazy to waste time. The class monitor looked grim, swept his gaze around, and finally stopped on me. "Here it comes. This dog-like lackey of Kong Fangyi is about to put on a show, classmate. Kong Na, why don't you check your own things?" "No time." I didn't even look up and replied coldly, "What kind of attitude is that? Move aside, I'm going to check your desk drawer." The class monitor walked up to me and shoved me hard. I wasn't about to indulge her. I shoved her back, and she let out a cry before landing hard on her but on the floor, as if, did they really think all those years I spent with Brother Jean were for nothing? I can carry 2 cases of beer at once, and each case has 9 bottles. The commotion drew everyone's attention, and all my classmates turned to look at me in surprise. For the past half-month, I basically hadn't talked much with my classmates. They probably thought I was a shy, weak person. "Kong Na, how can you push someone like that?" the class monitor said. His face flushed as he stood up. "Don't you know how to write the words, good upbringing, or is it that, since you grew up without a father or mother, no one ever taught you?" The class monitor's words were truly vicious. I had never told any of my classmates about my identity, so it didn't take much to guess how the class monitor found out. Kong Fangyi was sitting not far away at this moment, a sinister smile on her face. "Whether I have manners or not doesn't matter. What matters is this: whoever dares to come after me will have to bear my rage. Her file isn't with me. Go do what you need to do and don't interfere with my studying." "You," the class monitor probably hadn't expected me to be this tough. He froze for a moment and was left speechless. At this moment, a boy sitting in the front row walked over. Wu Minghui, the eldest son of the Wu family, was also a textbook rich second-generation classmate. "Kong Na, the class monitor was too impulsive. I think the review materials definitely weren't taken by you. In that case, why not let her check? After she's done, you can keep studying. It won't delay you more than a few minutes." Wu Minghui flashed what he thought was a charming smile and gently patted my shoulder. I looked up at him, and deep in my eyes, endless hatred flickered. "There are so many people in the class. Why are you checking mine first? Don't act like a do-gooder in front of me." This hypocritical man was also one of the main culprits back then. In my previous life, I was falsely accused of stealing a classmate's study materials, and only he stood up to speak for me. Because of that small incident, I even had a crush on him for a long time, never expecting that everything he did was just an act. "Student Kong Na, I'm saying this for your own good. There's no need for you to be so resentful, is there?" Wu Minghui still had a smile on his face, maintaining what he called his noble family manners. "Sis, why don't you take a look? At noon after school, I seem to see you staying alone in the classroom for a long time. Maybe you really took the wrong one." Kong Fangyi finally spoke. As soon as these words were spoken, the uninformed classmates immediately cast suspicious looks at me. I sighed helplessly, suddenly stood up, walked to Kong Fangyi's desk, and pulled a notebook out of the space under her desk. Then I tossed it to the classmate who had lost the notebook. "Take a look. Is this your thing?" She picked up the notebook and glanced at it, then nodded. "At noon after school, I saw classmate Kong Fangyi secretly take your notebook. Such an important thing. Make sure to keep it safe next time so it doesn't get stolen again." "Kong Na, why you're framing me. you must have deliberately put the notebook with me." Feeling the scrutinizing gazes of the other students, Kong Fangyi anxiously shouted at me. I calmly sat back in my seat and pointed at the classroom surveillance camera. "The cameras recorded everything. Do you want to check the footage and show it to everyone?" "You, humph." Kong Fangyi lay on the desk and began to sob softly under my gaze. The class monitor also awkwardly sat back down in his seat. As for young Master Wu, he still stood there and didn't leave. The look in his eyes as he glanced at me became quite interested. I nudged my desk mate, who was sleeping. "What's wrong?" He impatiently lifted his head and spoke groggily. I pointed at Wu Minghui. "This classmate has been running around during class time. As the discipline monitor, shouldn't you do something about it?" My desk mate glanced at Wu Minghui and said coldly, "Get back to your seat." Upon hearing this, Wu Minghui's smile vanished instantly, and the vein at his temple throbbed, but he didn't finish the last sentence. He sat back down in frustration. Speaking of my desk mate, he was something else. The eldest young master of the Chu family, Chuyu, of the Chu group. Compared with him, even the Kong family and the Wu family didn't rank as anything, and even their businesses had to rely on the Chu family. So when Chuyu scolded him, Wu Minghui didn't dare to say a word. In her previous life, Father Kong assigned Kong Fangyi a task. Her studies could be ordinary, but she had to find a way to win over Chuyu. This was the fastest shortcut for the Kong family to rise to the next level, marrying into the Chu family. Kong Fangyi herself was deeply in love with Chuyu, so she naturally spared no effort in trying to complete the task. It's just a pity that Chuyu has a cold temperament and always wears an unapproachable expression. Kong Fangyi often got the short end of the stick with him. This time, when I transferred here, if there hadn't been no seats left, Chuyu would never have agreed to let me become his desk mate. In my previous life, after being desk mates with Chuyu for so long, I never said more than 10 sentences to him. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed. The college entrance examination is drawing closer and closer. During this period, Kong Fangyi repeatedly found ways to harass me several times. She even spent money to get a younger student from our school to confess to me. Then she secretly took photos and posted them on the campus wall. This made everyone in the school accuse me of actually having time to date with the college entrance examination just around the corner. This matter became known to everyone and had a very bad impact. The school also called in Kong's father and Kong's mother. After learning about this, both of them expressed great disappointment in me, but I knew that what disappointed them was not that I was dating before the college entrance exam, but that the person I was dating was an ordinary guy from an average family background. As I came out of the academic affairs office, Kong Fangyi, who had been waiting outside for a long time, hurried over. "Mom, Dad, don't blame my sister, it's just that the pressure of studying was too much for her, so she made this kind of mistake. As her younger sister, I've been too negligent in paying attention to my sister's feelings. Don't worry, I'll keep a close eye on her for the time being and supervise her to study hard every day." Father Kong nodded and looked at me. "Nana, the college entrance exam is just around the corner. I hope you can focus on your studies. As for dating and falling in love, let's leave that for later." Kong's mother also chimed in. "Nana, I heard you always have problems with Fangyi in class. Mom believes you two are sisters, so you really shouldn't act like this. Mom hopes you can be a sensible child and should always be a little more tolerant of your younger sister." "Okay, Mom and Dad, I understand, but there's one thing I might not be able to do." I nervously rubbed my fingers together, not daring to look up at Kong's father and mother. Kong Fangyi looked smug, probably thinking I was going to say I couldn't yield to my younger sister, and then the two of them would lecture me again. "What is it that can't be done?" Kong Fu asked in a deep, steady voice. "It's just the matter of dating. That's not something I can control." "What do you mean, exactly, Nana? Why can't you control something like dating? If someone pursues you, just turn them down." "But, Nana, why haven't you gone back to study yet?" Before I could finish speaking, a magnetic voice came from not far away. Chiyu strode over with steady steps and stopped in front of me under the gaze of the few of us. Although he was wearing a school uniform, it could not conceal the unique aura emanating from young Master Chu. "Chuyu, why are you here? Are you here to see me?" Kong Fangyi's eyes lit up, and she completely forgot what Chiyu had just said. In 2 steps, she walked to his other side. Young Master Chu frowned habitually and nudged me a little to the side, putting some distance between himself and Kong Fangyi. "You should stay a little farther away from me. I'm not very used to standing with people I'm not familiar with." At those words, Kong Fangyi's face went deathly pale, and she stood frozen in place. Looking at her expression, I secretly smiled to myself and, leaning close to Chuyu, said, "Mom, Dad, this is Chu-Yu, he's my desk mate, and also. Hello, Uncle and Auntie, I'm Nana's suitor. Chu-Yu cut me off, reaching out his hand toward Father Kong. A suitor. Chu-Yu's words startled Kong's father and mother at the same time, and they hurriedly reached out to shake Chu-Yu's hand. Yes, Uncle, Auntie, I'm currently pursuing Nana, but she hasn't agreed yet. Come to think of it, this is our second meeting, and you both look even younger than before. Ah, ha ha ha, Xiao Chu. You're really good with words. The last time we met was when we visited your father at home. How has he been lately? Dad is doing very well. That's good, that's good. This was the first time I had ever seen Uncle Kong speak so ingratiatingly to someone else, and the other party was even a student. Uncle, Auntie, if there's nothing else, I'll take Nana back to the classroom. I have some exercises I need to ask her about. As Chu-Yu spoke, he grabbed my wrist. Good, good, you two stay busy. Stay busy. Father Kong's face was beaming with smiles. He had long since put the matter of not letting me date out of his mind. I pulled Chu-Yu, who was about to leave, and paused slightly. Dad, Mom, after thinking about what just happened, I realize you were right. I still should be focusing on my studies right now, and as for other people's pursuits of me, I'd better turn them down. No, 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 Nana, don't say such silly things. Upon hearing this, Father Kong and Mother Kong suddenly became nervous and waved their hands at me. Nana, what we just said was only a joke. Don't take it seriously at all. Things can be as they were before at school, and they can stay the same now. Your dad and mom support every decision you make. Yes, yes, Nana, just do things the way you want. We won't get involved or ask questions. Really? I asked with a delighted look. Really, thank you, Mom and Dad. Then Chu-Yu, let's go. Hurry back to the classroom to study. Okay, goodbye, Uncle and Auntie. Goodbye, goodbye, Xiao Chu, goodbye. Chu-Yu pulled me along, and after we walked out of their sight, he immediately let go of my hand, returning to his original cold demeanor. That's right, Chu-Yu's appearance was carefully arranged by me, of course. By sheer coincidence, I also managed to get a slight hold over him. Only then did I finally persuade him to go along with me and act out this play. You'd better keep your promise, or you won't be able to bear the consequences. I followed behind Chu-Yu, rubbing the wrist he had pinched until it hurt, and couldn't help but reach out and punch him once. What are you doing? Chu-Yu turned around and glared at me. His gaze was fierce, like a wild beast. Nothing, you made my wrist hurt, so I hit you. I curled my lip and walked in front of him. Don't worry, 2 months is plenty. I guarantee you'll get into Lingjiang University. Better be that way. Chu-Yu followed me into the classroom, drawing everyone's attention. In particular, Wu Minghui's gaze toward me was full of aggression. After this incident, Kong Fangyi finally stopped harassing me. Of course I knew this was only temporary. What happened in my past life was bound to happen again. However, there was one thing that left me utterly speechless. The car that used to pick me up from school every day was gone. Only after asking around did I learn that Kong Fangyi had told my parents I no longer needed to be picked up by the family car, because Chu-Yu would take me home. Uncle Kong and Aunt Kong actually believed it. I couldn't even be bothered to explain something like this since the school wasn't that far from home. I figured I might as well walk back every day as exercise, but I only walked for 2 days before I was stopped by a car from the Chu family on the 3rd day. At the silent invitation of young Master Chu, I got into their car. If Kong Fangyi knew that, after all her maneuvering, Chu really ended up driving me home, I wonder how she would feel. The day of the college entrance exam was getting closer and closer. Almost everyone in the class was studying hard, and every day, in addition to reviewing on my own, I also had to guide Chu-Yu through those problems that might appear on the exam paper. After spending time with him during this period, I discovered that Chu-Yu actually wasn't as hard to get along with as he seemed on the surface. He was the kind of person who seemed cold on the outside but warm on the inside, so when I talked to him normally, I also became bolder. Chu-Yu, you got this problem wrong again. I've explained the same method to you several times already. Can that pig brain of yours actually remember it? This isn't quite the same as what you explained. Chu scratched his head, avoiding my stern gaze. How is it different? Last time you, sis, can you be a little gentler with Chu-Yu? A nasty voice interrupted me. Chu-Yu and I looked up at the same time and saw that Kong Fangyi had somehow appeared beside us. Chu-Yu, your sister is too fierce. How about I switch seats with her? I can go over the problems with you. I seriously wondered if I had heard wrong. Kong Fangyi is going to explain a problem to someone else. With those 2 knives of hers, it's already impressive if she can understand the questions. I really don't know where she gets her confidence from. I was in a fit of anger at the time, so I simply stood up and made an inviting gesture toward Kong Fangyi. Please, have a seat, sister. Kong Fangyi was not the least bit polite either. She plopped right down and completely failed to notice Chu Yu's increasingly sour expression. Chu Yu, which question don't you know how to do? Let me take a look for you. Kong Fangyi wanted to move closer to Chu Yu, but he coldly pushed her away. Move aside, this isn't your seat. Chu Yu, I said move aside. Kong Fangyi wanted to say something else, but when she met Chu Yu's terrifying gaze, she had no choice but to run back to her seat with red eyes. You, sit back down. Tell me the whole thing again from the beginning. Kong Fangyi sat in her seat and secretly looked back. I curled my lips into a smile and, after sitting down, moved a little closer to Chu Yu. Our faces were almost pressed together, and Chu Yu had no intention of dodging at all. Being so close made my cheeks feel a little hot, but when I thought about how furious Kong Fangyi must be, I felt a wave of satisfaction in my heart. To infuriate her to death, I took the hair tie off my wrist and slipped it onto Chu Yu's hand. What are you doing? Chu Yu didn't refuse, only looked at me in confusion. Wear it properly. If you make any more wrong answers later, I'll use this to punish you. As I spoke, I pinched the elastic band and let it go, lightly flicking Chu Yu once. Ah! Kong Fangyi's sudden scream startled everyone. Like a madwoman, she slammed her book to the ground and twisted her body as she ran out of the classroom. The college entrance exam began. When I saw the first test paper, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, the exam papers were the same as in my previous life. Otherwise, all the practice questions I had prepared for Chu Yu over such a long time would have been wasted. I was very fortunate to be assigned to the same exam room as Chu Yu. After each exam, Chu Yu would come over and discuss it with me for a long time. After confirming that he hadn't made any mistakes, Chu Yu would even rarely let a smile show. This made me very curious. Why exactly was he so determined to apply to a university so far away from home? The 2 days of exams ended. As expected, my results were hidden. Overcome with excitement, I immediately called Chu Yu. Chu Yu, have you checked your results? How did you do? On the phone, Chu Yu's deep voice came through, and he was clearly excited too. I scored above Ling Jiang's cutoff. Thank you, Kong Na. Really, that's great. I was genuinely happy for him. Kong Na, you, which school are you planning to apply to? As for me, which school do you want me to apply to? There was suddenly silence on the other end of the phone, and I inexplicably started to feel nervous too. After a long while, Chu Yu finally said, Lingjiang University. This time, I was the one left speechless, but I didn't stay silent for long. All right, don't go back on your word. Goodbye. After hanging up, I felt my cheeks burning. My mind was in turmoil. Could it be that Chu Yu had fallen for me? The day to fill out college applications soon arrived. Sister, which university are you planning to apply to? Kong Fangyi asked me with a smile, holding her laptop while sitting on the sofa. Both Mr. and Mrs. Kong were there, and they also looked at me when they heard that. I placed the laptop on the coffee table and, without the slightest hesitation, listed Yendu University, the nearest one to home, as my first choice. I put Qingyun University, which is a slightly lower tier, as my second choice. After seeing it, Kong's father nodded in satisfaction. Nana, it seems you're very confident in yourself. This exam was very easy. If there's no score available, it means I'm at least in the top 50. Getting into Yendu University shouldn't be too much of a problem, and Qingyun University is my backup. For the remaining options, I can just pick whichever ones. Though I said I was just picking randomly, my third choice was actually Lingjiang University. It's also the school Chu Yu planned to apply to, and the reason I didn't list Lingjiang University as my first choice was because I knew Father Kong would never agree to it. But I wasn't exactly breaking my promise to Chu Yu, because I believed the girl from the snail's hell would always step in. Nana is amazing. Mother Kong happily hugged me and asked curiously, Nana, I've never even heard of this Lingjiang University. I picked it at random, a no-name university. Is that so? For your third choice, why don't you think it over a bit more? Pick one close to home. In case the first two, don't worry, Mom, there's no in case. I'm in the top 50, you know. All right, it was Mom who overthought it. What school are you planning to choose, little sister? I changed the subject and looked at Kong Fangyi, whose expression had turned unpleasant. As for me, it's a secret. I'm going back to my room first. Kong Fangyi hugged her laptop tightly and ran back to her room. This kid, still keeping it a secret. Mother Kong shook her head, Father Kong snorted and put down the book in his hand. With Fang Yi's score, getting into a second-tier university would already be burning incense in gratitude. You say there's no one in our Kong family who's poor at studying, except Fang Yi, old Kong. Don't talk nonsense, Mother Kong interrupted Father Kong. Father Kong also realized he had misspoken, sighed, and got up to go to the study. Nana, Mom is going to talk to Dad about something. Okay, I nodded obediently. After the two of them went into the study, I looked toward Kong Fangyi's room, curled the corners of my mouth, and sneered inwardly. If there were no comparison, Uncle Kong and Aunt Kong actually had no real demands of Kong Fangyi. With such a huge family business, even if you can't get into a good university, it doesn't matter. But with me as the comparison, while Father Kong and Mother Kong expressed pride in me, they would inevitably feel somewhat uncomfortable inside. After lunch, I said hello to my parents and told them I was going out to meet a classmate and wouldn't be back for dinner that night. After hearing that, the two of them probably thought of something. Instead of worrying, they even told me not to come home too early. I left without explaining anything. Before leaving, I left the computer on the coffee table, still on the page for filling out my college applications. In my previous life, Kong Fangyi went to great lengths to get my password and secretly changed my choices, turning both my first and second choices into obscure universities. By the time I found out, it was already too late to make any changes. Even then, I never suspected she had tampered with it. I always thought I had filled it out wrong, and for that reason I hid in my room crying every day. That's also why I later agreed to go to the bar with Kong Fangyi, which ended in me being raped. So this time, I simply left the computer with her, so she could change it openly and honestly. After leaving home, I went to Brother Jin's restaurant. Brother Jin was even happier to see me than he was to see his own family. That evening, he specially prepared a table full of hearty dishes for me in his office, saying he wanted to give me a lavish welcome, but because the restaurant was too busy, he went out to help after only a few bites. Seeing that I wouldn't be able to finish this whole table of food, I thought it over and called Chiyu. Upon hearing that I wanted to treat him to dinner, Chiyu rushed over in less than 10 minutes. After dinner, I saw that it was already 11 p.m., so I hurried over and sat down in front of Brother Jin's computer. Young Master Chu, do you want to take a look at the choices I filled in? I said with a smile to Chiyu. Chiyu nodded and stood up behind me. As I entered the password, the page for submitting college application choices popped up. The first choice clearly shows Lingjiang University, the second choice is a school I've never seen before, the third choice is Yendu University. Hehe, I curled my lip into a smile and pointed at the computer screen. Chiyu, my first choice today was Yendu University, and Lingjiang University was only my third choice. Can you guess why it changed? Chiyu frowned and shook his head. That's because someone secretly changed my application choices. I told Chiyu everything about filling out my application choices. After hearing it, he looked at me in shock. You mean you knew that Kong Fangyi was going to tamper with your college choices, so you deliberately put Lingjiang University in third place? Exactly. As a result, she really thought Lingjiang University was some run-of-the-mill college. So she put Lingjiang as her first choice. Afterward, even if your parents learned the truth, they wouldn't take it out on you, they'd only blame Kong Fangyi, and you could still go to Lingjiang University with me with no burden at all. Yes, how do you think my plan is? Doesn't it have that master strategist feel to it? Chiyu silently gave me a thumbs up. Kong Na, you're smarter than I expected, but I have a question. If Kong Fangyi hadn't changed your first choice school to Lingjiang University, or if she had never intended to change your application at all, what would you have done then? I spread my hands. If she didn't change it, I'd change it myself. Isn't there a computer? After changing it, I'd just frame it on her. The result would be the same. Chiyu suddenly took a step back, and the look in his eyes toward me carried a trace of something unreadable. Seeing him like that, I suddenly felt a hint of mischievous delight. I smiled as I stood up, pressing my body close to his and tilting my head up to gaze at his perfect handsome face. No one, nothing, can stop me from going to Lingjiang University with you. You, young Master Chu, belong to me. My finger rested on Chuyu's chest, sliding gently. The sound of his powerful heartbeat echoed in my ears. Kana, do you like me? Chiyu suddenly asked. You shouldn't ask it that way. I shook my head. I should be the one asking. Chiyu, do you like me? Even the calm and composed young Master Chu was flustered at this moment, his heartbeat clearly quickening. Under my expectant gaze, Chuyu's phone rang. Up until I left Brother Jin's restaurant, I still hadn't gotten the answer I wanted, but I still got Chiyu to promise me one thing. If one day Kong Fangyi invites him to a bar, he must agree, what happened at the bar is the key. Even though I've been reborn, I still don't have much confidence in changing that terrifying ending. I could choose not to go, or I could choose to report it to the police in advance, but neither of those was what I wanted. What I wanted was for Kong Fangyi to pay the price, for her to personally leap into the abyss I had dug for her. On the third day after the volunteer assignment was changed, I went to see Kong's father alone. Today, he was the only one at home. Kong's mother had been dragged out early in the morning by Kong Fangyi to go shopping. They said they were going shopping together, but in reality Kong Fangyi had just dragged along an ATM. In the study, Kong's father looked at the laptop I handed him, his face full of fury. This is too much. He slammed his hand on the desk, shaking the teacup so hard it nearly toppled over. Dad, you watched me fill out my college application choices, so there's no way I could have made a mistake on my own. Tears welled up in my eyes. After I finished speaking, I blinked, and the tears rolled down the corners of my eyes. I know. We don't even need to guess who did this. Fang Yi is far inferior to you, and on top of that, she's so reckless and thoughtless. It seems I've been too good to her all this time, which is why she dared to do something like this so brazenly. Dad, why would my sister do this? Changing my choices wouldn't do her any good. I wiped away my tears and asked. The reason is simple, jealousy. She's jealous that you study better than her, are more capable than her, and are smarter than her. In the end, she's jealous that you are the legitimate daughter of the Kong family. Kung Fu walked to the window and continued in a deep voice. Since she dares to secretly alter your college application choices now, she'll dare to do even more outrageous and excessive things in the future. It seems I need to rearrange her future plans. I stood nearby listening quietly, nodding in agreement in my heart. Nana, Dad is also responsible for this. Dad will definitely find a way to get you into Yendu University. Kung Fu's eyes were filled with guilt as he looked at me. Perhaps it was only until this moment that he truly regarded me as his own daughter. Dad, actually, going to Lingjiang University isn't impossible either. It would be better for our family if I went to Lingjiang University. How so? Jiu also applied to Lingjiang University, just so he could get farther away from home. Really, he told me himself. After leaving the study, I only felt refreshed and invigorated. When I left, I asked Father Kong not to bring this matter out into the open or criticize and punish Kong Fangyi before I went back to school, because I was worried that, under extreme pressure, Kong Fangyi might do something even more outrageous. After hearing this, Kung Fu also felt it made sense, so he agreed. Later, I also told Kung Fu that before school started, I planned to go to the orphanage to do volunteer work. Kung Fu originally did not want to agree, as he had been thinking of sending me to the Kong group to get some experience and training, but after learning that Chu Yu would go do volunteer work with me, he decisively overturned his own idea, citing respect for my decision. Just like that, I began leaving early and coming back late every day, doing meaningful things with Chu Yu. As for Kong Fangyi, she completely let loose, playing wildly outside every day and often not coming home at night. If this had been in the past, Father Kong would have surely criticized her harshly, but now Father Kong didn't care about her at all, though it was unclear how he planned to map out Kong Fangyi's future. But if things continue like this, Kong Fangyi is basically completely ruined. Chu Yu and I both received our admission letters from Lingjiang University. Because Lingjiang University is located at a relatively high altitude, the air is thin, so Chu Yu and I discussed it and decided to head there early to get used to life there. But before that, I still had to wait for one thing. I deliberately let Kong Fangyi know about receiving the admission letter. The first thing she did after finding out was to make a big fuss about it at home and tell Father Kong and Mother Kong. She said that I hadn't gotten into Yendu, but had instead been admitted to a lousy university. But the reactions of the two of them left her deeply disappointed. Not only did the two of them not blame me, they even comforted me again and again right in front of Kong Fangyi. They even criticized her for taking pleasure in my misfortune and not behaving like a younger sister should. This dealt a heavy blow to Kong Fangyi, and for several days afterward, the look in her eyes whenever she saw me was filled with malice. That day, she finally bared her claws at me. Kong Fangyi, sis, you're about to go so far away to college, how about coming to the bar to relax before you leave? Looking at the message she sent me, a chill rose in my heart. The humiliating scenes from my previous life flashed through my mind, but I've never been to a place like that. Kong Fangyi, it's okay. It's really fun. Everyone there is a classmate, by the way. Young Master Chu will also come later. She sent me a screenshot of her conversation with Chu Yu. Chu Yu agreed to her invitation. All right then, send me the address. I'll head over now. putting away my phone, I took a deep breath. What was meant to come would eventually come, only this time, the result was probably going to disappoint Kong Fangyi. By the time I rushed to the bar, Chiyu was already standing at the entrance. After I explained a few things to him, we staggered our timing and went into the bar one after the other. Everyone who was hanging out together really was a classmate. Several of Kong Fangyi's followers, along with the class monitor and young Master Wu, were all there. To avoid letting Kong Fangyi notice anything, Chiyu and I sat on opposite sides, and in the dim light we could hardly even see each other. Come on, everyone, once we're all here, let's raise a toast. Cheers, cheers, come on, sis. Let's have one together. We finally got a chance to come out and have some fun, so let's drink to our heart's content. Nana, let's have one too. Wu Minghui had somehow sat down next to me, and started clinking glasses with me frequently. I pretended to drink it every time, but in fact I poured it all beside the sofa. No one noticed at all in the dim, noisy environment. Kong Fangyi also kept clinking glasses along the way, and eventually moved over to Chu Yu's side. By the occasional sweep of the spotlights, I saw that Chu Yu's expression was extremely grim. He already didn't like noisy places, and if it weren't for me this time, he would never have come to a place like this. He naturally paid even less attention to Kong Fangyi's toast, sitting there coldly and unmoving. After being snubbed, Kong Fangyi finally walked around the table and squeezed over to my side. Sis, I'll pour it for you. Come on, let's have a drink together. You too drink, I'm going to use the restroom. Wu Minghui got up and left. Everything is just as it was in the previous life. Kong Fangyi somehow produced a bottle of liquor that wasn't among the ones on the table and poured me half a glass. In my previous life, it was after drinking this wine that I instantly became dizzy and groggy. Then, on the way to the restroom, I was dragged into a private room by several strangers. Just as they were about to assault me, Wu Minghui rushed in at the perfect moment, like a deity descending from heaven. He knocked those men down in just a few moves. Thinking about it now, I must have been drugged at the time, otherwise, how could I have believed Wu Minghui knocked them down so easily? Later, he took me to the guest room upstairs and fed me a glass of water. After I drank that glass of water, I only felt a burning heat all over my body, and I kept wanting to take off my clothes. By then, I had already sensed something was wrong, but it was all too late. Wu Minghui stripped me naked and pounced on me like a demon. After he assaulted me, I regained some clarity. Just when I thought it was all over, Wu Minghui actually made a phone call and brought over the few people who had just been in the private room. In an instant, countless filthy insults echoed in my ears, then waves of searing pain spread through my body, gradually causing me to lose consciousness. In the end, I died miserably in the guest room. Back in this moment, I looked at the wine glass in my hand, unable to stop trembling. I looked over at Chu Yu in the distance, and he was looking at me too. With him here, there should be no problem, I comforted myself inwardly. Holding the wine glass, I suddenly tilted my head back. I had only drunk half of the half-full glass, while the rest spilled all over my clothes. Hey, sis, what are you doing? You spilled it all over me. Kong Fangyi was sitting close, and some of the wine had spilled onto her as well. While she was tidying up her clothes, I secretly picked up the wine bottle and poured some of the tainted wine into her cup. At the same time, I grabbed the original bottle of wine from the table and quickly poured myself half a glass. Sorry, little sister, I drank way too hard just now. Come on, let's have another one. Which bottle of liquor did you pour from? Kong Fangyi looked at my wine glass in confusion. I pointed at the bottle that had the problem. This one. Only then did Kong Fangyi smile, raised her glass, and clinked it against mine. In the end, the two of us each had our own thoughts, secretly watching each other finish the wine. After we finished, I saw Kong Fangyi still about to pour me more, so I hurriedly moved my cup away and waved my hand to refuse. Little sister, I really can't drink anymore, my head feels so dizzy. After saying that, I leaned back on the sofa and pretended to doze off. Seeing this, Kong Fangyi did not insist, because at this moment she also didn't seem quite right. She swayed her head and body to the music, her gaze gradually becoming dazed. It was exactly the same as what happened to me in my previous life. Within a few minutes, she staggered to her feet. I opened my eyes and called out to her, "Sister, where are you going?" With her words slurred, Kong Fangyi waved her hand and said, I'm going to the restroom. I'll go with you." "I'm going too." I helped the increasingly drowsy Kong Fangyi toward the restroom. When we passed the private room from my previous life, my gaze sharpened. Grimly enduring the dizziness and discomfort, I forcefully shoved her inside. After that, I pulled the private room door shut, and only after hearing the disgusting words coming from inside did I sneer and head toward the restroom. As I had guessed, these people had been called here by Wu Minghui, and they didn't know Kong Fangyi. I have no idea what was actually mixed into that wine. My condition now isn't any better than Kong Fangyi's. Even the restroom just a few steps away feels impossibly far. Just when I was about to collapse, a pair of strong hands supported me. Chuyu, take me to the upstairs guest room. Chuyu opened a guest room, and the room number was 318. I remember that in my previous life, the guest room Wu Minghui opened was 317. After placing me on the bed, Chuyu didn't leave. He just sat by the bedside and quietly watched me. Although my body was weak and drained, and my mind was foggy, I was still fully conscious. Looking at his handsome face, I suddenly thought of what had happened at Brother Jin's place that day, and my body instantly grew a little hot. This was a physical heat, not something brought on by the drugs. As if possessed, I reached out to him and said, "Hold me." Chuyu grabbed my hand and, after a slight hesitation, lay down right beside me and pulled me into his arms. I closed my eyes, feeling his body warmth, and my heart was filled with an unusual sense of peace. I trust Chuyu's character, and I'm not at all worried that he would do anything to me. At most it would just be, in my drowsy state, a scorching kiss suddenly exploded on my lips. That's all. The next day, I was woken by the sound of sirens. I suddenly sat up in bed, replaying everything that had happened the day before. Awake, the sudden sound startled me, and only after I saw that it was Chuyu did I breathe a sigh of relief. What happened outside? Chuyu handed me a glass of hot water and sat down beside me. It was Kong Fangyi. She was raped by Wu Minghui and several strangers. Rape? I widened my eyes in shock. Then what about her? How is she? I didn't expect this. I thought it was all a trap arranged by Wu Minghui and Kong Fangyi. If I didn't fall into it, they would definitely give up. But the result was, Wu Minghui, that beast, he clearly knew it wasn't me anymore. So why did he keep going? Kong Fangyi was a little traumatized. I saw that she'd already been taken away by ambulance, and the police were there to arrest Wu Minghui and a few others. What a coincidence. They were right next door last night. Hearing that Kong Fangyi wasn't dead, I let out a sigh of relief, although making her endure everything I had been through as well was a punishment for her. But I don't want her to die the way I did. Oh no, what's wrong? I didn't go home all last night. My parents must have been extremely worried. As I said that, I was about to get out of bed, but Chuyu pushed me back down in one swift motion. I called your uncle last night and told him you'd had too much to drink and were with me. He said he was very relieved. Oh, he's really carefree, I muttered softly. Chuyu looked at me and said again, the police will probably question both of us about Kong Fangyi's matter too. When that happens, just tell the truth. After you got drunk, I took you to the guest room, and after that neither of us went out all night. You heard me. Got it? I nodded obediently, then asked Chuyu curiously, Chuyu, last night, what did we do? Chuyu met my gaze. A faint curve slowly rose at the corners of his mouth. What do you think? Ahem. His reaction instead made me feel shy. I averted my eyes and coughed twice. How would I know? I was drugged. As soon as I finished speaking, I was suddenly shoved down by a strong force. Chuyu reached out and pressed his hand against my shoulder, bringing his face close to mine. Then let me help you remember. Don't. Kong Fangyi reaped what she had sown. After being taken to the hospital, she began to become delirious and babble incoherently. After Chuyu and I rushed to the hospital, Chuyu spoke privately with Kong's father for a long time. In my previous life, after I died, my soul did not disperse, and I watched with my own eyes as Kong Fangyi framed me, saying that I had gone out looking for men and partying recklessly, and in the end had played myself to death. The classmates who went to the bar together also gave consistent statements. In the end, Kong Fu used the reputation of the Kong family as an excuse to suppress the matter outright and did not hold anyone responsible. He also publicly announced that the whole matter of the Kong family finding their real daughter was just a farce, and that Kong Fangyi was the Kong family's real daughter. Just like that, not only did I die in humiliation, but in the end I didn't even have a name to my own. This time the target has changed, but based on my understanding of Kong Fu, he will probably still put the reputation of the Kong family first and repeat the same move from my previous life, but I didn't want him to do that. Kong Fangyi had already received the punishment he deserved, but Wu Minghui was still at large. Along with those few disgusting men, they all had to pay the price. So on the way to the hospital, I asked Chuyu to help me and make sure he would convince Kong's father to pursue accountability to the very end. Chuyu nodded without hesitation and agreed, calling home several times in a row before arriving at the hospital. I know the Wu family is powerful, if Grandpa Kong really pursued Wu Minghui's responsibility, that would be a clash between the strength of the two families. Grandpa Kong wasn't confident he could handle the Wu family, but the Chu family had that kind of strength. It all depended on whether Chu Yu could have a say at home. After the two finished talking, Chu Yu gave me a reassuring look. At this moment, Kong Fu's expression also changed, carrying a confident and stern air. Nana, didn't you and Xiao Chu plan to go to Lingjiang a bit early to get used to it, then set out in 2 days? Don't let this matter affect your schooling. Chu Yu and I looked at each other and silently nodded. A week after we arrived in Lingjiang, Kong's mother called me and said that all the perpetrators had been brought to justice, and Wu Minghui was no exception. The Wu family's reputation plummeted because of this incident, and the Chu and Kong families seized the opportunity to carve up many of the Wu family's assets. As for the arrangements for Kong Fangyi, her father still showed enough ruthlessness. In the end, he still couldn't let go of the issue of the Kong family's reputation. Using his connections, he quickly found Kong Fangyi's biological parents and wanted them to take Kong Fangyi away and care for her. At first, the two of them were unwilling to agree. After all, Kong Fangyi was now crazy and deranged, clearly a burden, but when Kong Fu offered a living allowance of 20,000 yuan a month for 5 consecutive years, the two of them agreed without hesitation. Everything is settled. I leaned against Chu Yu's shoulder, looking at the dreamlike snowy mountains in the distance, and it felt like I was in a dream. Chu Yu, you said it's clearly summer now, so why are there still snowy mountains over there? Because that area is at a high altitude, and the temperature stays below freezing year-round, so that's how it is. Then does it mean people are the same too? The higher they stand, the colder their hearts become. Chu Yu looked at me in surprise and pulled me into his arms. That's right, which is why I chose to run away, but because of your appearance, the meaning of running away has changed. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. The day I found out I was pregnant with my second child, the baby in my womb unexpectedly revealed its thoughts. Silly sister, Mom said that as soon as you graduate, she'll sell you off for a bride price to help me get a wife in the future. Upon hearing this, my daughter quietly applied to study abroad and was never heard from again. My husband was about to comfort me when he, too, heard the second child's thoughts, still trying to comfort me. You're the biggest fool in this family. When I'm born, I won't even call you dad, because my real dad is that handsome guy from the bar. My husband was so furious that he immediately dragged me to the hospital for a paternity test, but the expedited paternity test my best friend arranged for me clearly showed that the second child had no biological relation to my husband. My husband directly asked me for a divorce. The second child anxiously blurted out again, why does this sucker suddenly want a divorce? Did he discover that Mom lied to him? The person who saved him back then wasn't Mom, but Mom's best friend. Upon hearing this, my husband turned around and married my best friend. Meanwhile, I suffered a sudden massive hemorrhage due to the baby in my womb and died in agony on the hospital bed. I never knew until my death why I ended up like this. It wasn't until I was reborn that I also heard the thoughts of my second child. Meng Meng, congratulations. This time you're really pregnant with your second child. Now you have both a son and a daughter. There's no mother happier than you. A familiar voice rang in my ears, and I suddenly opened my eyes. Seeing the ultrasound report in my best friend Wu Xiaoya's hand, I finally confirmed that I had truly been reborn. Upon learning that the second child was a son, my husband immediately gave Wu Xiaoya a big red envelope in celebration. Our daughter, who is about to graduate from college, and my husband are both eager to name the child, but the very next moment, my unborn second child's thoughts echoed in my mind. Silly sister, I don't want you to name me. Mom said that as soon as you graduate, she'll sell you off for a bride price to help me get a wife in the future. Upon hearing this, my daughter's face instantly turned pale. In my previous life, it was the same. After hearing the thoughts of the second child, my daughter lost her smile. She, who was once lively and cheerful, became withdrawn and no longer close to us. At first, I thought she was worried about her graduation thesis. Who would have thought that as soon as she graduated from university, she applied to study abroad? Then there was no news from her until 2 months later, when she made a final call to sever ties. Mom, this is the last time I'll call you Mom, because I will never come back. I will get married and have children abroad, so just pretend you never had a daughter like me. I never expected my daughter to say such things, and at that moment, I cried my heart out. Now, seeing the disappointed look in my daughter's eyes, I immediately grabbed her hand. Jejia, Mom doesn't plan to keep this child. Don't worry, you will always be Mom's most beloved daughter." My daughter was instantly stunned, while my best friend beside me grew anxious. "Meng Meng, are you crazy? You're perfectly fine. Why would you want to abort the child?" My husband also showed a puzzled expression. "That's right, what's wrong, honey? Haven't you always wanted both a son and a daughter? It's not like we can't afford it. Why do you insist on aborting this child?" Seeing my husband's clueless expression, I became even more certain that he hadn't heard the second child's inner thoughts just now. It seems this child can selectively choose who can hear its inner voice, to avoid the tragedy of my previous life. "I must have him aborted, honey, this time you must. Listen to me, we have to abort this child." As soon as I finished speaking, the second child in my womb anxiously kicked me. "Mom, how can you be so heartless? Just because you're afraid your husband will find out I'm not his biological son, you want to abort me to cover up the fact that you cheated." His voice was like a spell, reminding me of my past life. At that time, my daughter had just cut ties with me, and I was so heartbroken that I cried every day. When my husband was worried about my health and urged me to take good care of myself for the sake of the baby in my belly, it was at this moment that he let my husband hear his thoughts. Just a moment ago, he was looking at me with tenderness in his eyes, but the next second, he dragged me to the hospital. I thought he was worried that something might be wrong with the baby in my belly. I obediently cooperated with him through all the investigations, but on the day we received the paternity test results, I finally realized that my husband suspected the child in my belly wasn't his. But how could that be possible? I have never done anything to wrong him, but what shocked me even more was that the paternity test clearly stated that the second child had no blood relation to my husband at all. So my husband completely believed the second child's inner thoughts. Just like now, my husband is quietly listening to the second child's inner thoughts. "I'm so pitiful, I haven't even met my dad yet. He's young and handsome, the hottest guy at the bar, completely outclassing this sucker by miles. Mom, didn't you say that once I was born, you'd divorce this sucker and take me to reunite with my real dad?" To be honest, I have no idea who that bar guy the second child is talking about is, because I've never been to any bar. But my husband's expression grew increasingly grim, his gaze toward me tinged with suspicion and doubt. "You're so eager to abort this child, could it be because, I can assure you, this child is yours. If you don't believe me, we can do a paternity test." Before he could finish his sentence, I was the first to suggest a paternity test. Seeing my confident demeanor, his furrowed brow gradually relaxed. "Honey, it's not that I don't trust you, it's just," seeing the awkward tension between us as a couple, Wu Xiaoya quickly stepped in to smooth things over. "You two are really something. It's just a paternity test, isn't it? I'll help you get it done, and I guarantee the results will be ready in just 4 hours. I sneered at her and said, "Xiaoya, thank you for your kindness, but I'd like to go to a different hospital for it." "No," a flicker of panic crossed Wu Xiaoya's face. "I mean, I'm a doctor, your best friend. Why go through the trouble of going to another hospital? Don't you trust me?" I really couldn't trust her. After all, in my past life, it was her who handled that paternity test for me, which completely nailed me to the shameful post of marital infidelity. In the end, I was forced to leave with nothing, and it was her, with the help of the second child's inner voice, who successfully replaced me and married my husband as the ultimate beneficiary of the entire incident. I definitely don't believe that she has nothing to do with this second child, so I put on a righteous and principled front and said to my husband, "A paternity test is a serious matter, and Xiaoya is my best friend. To ensure the accuracy of the test, are you really comfortable letting Xiaoya handle it for us?" Just as my husband was about to agree to my suggestion, the second child exclaimed, "Mom's move is truly brilliant. The stepdad would never guess that Mom had already bribed the doctor. No matter which hospital we go to, the paternity test will always state that I am the stepdad's biological son. Is this child trying to push me to the brink of death again?" I tried hard to suppress the anger in my heart, and in the end, I simply threw this century-old dilemma to my husband. "You decide how to handle the paternity test. With thousands of hospitals across the country, you can pick any place you want." My husband also seemed a bit weary. He pinched the bridge of his nose and said, "Forget it, let Xiaoya do it, we'll watch her do it, so there shouldn't be any issues." I thought about it and agreed that with 4 pairs of eyes on her at the same time, there shouldn't be any problems. Wu Xiaoya's face showed a hint of embarrassment, but she still cooperated with us and drew our blood. 4 hours later, the hot off-the-press paternity test results were finally ready. Seeing the results above, I breathed a sigh of relief in my heart. Although I don't know why the child's inner voice wants to harm me, from a biological perspective, he is indeed the biological son of my husband and me. This point ultimately cannot be wrong. Wu Xiaoya pretended to be kind and said, see, you're just worrying for nothing, I've watched you two all along, how could the paternity test possibly be wrong? But as soon as she finished speaking, the second child's inner voice jumped out without fail. Mom's charm is so great that it made Aunt Xiaoya willing to give up her professional ethics just to help Mom fake a paternity test. My husband immediately became furious and grabbed Wu Xiaoya's arm. Wu Xiaoya, do you dare to swear on your career that this paternity test is real? Wu Xiaoya looked aggrieved, but didn't say a word. It seemed as if I had really asked her to help me falsify the report. Just as I was about to explain, the second child acted even more anxious than I was. Mom, hurry up and tell Dad to let go of Aunt Xiaoya's hand. What if he sees the burn scar on Aunt Xiaoya's arm and finds out that she was the one who saved his life? Then Mom's secret of pretending to be his savior just to marry Dad will be exposed. I never pretended to be anything. Back when my husband was in a car accident and was rushed to the hospital, he went into shock due to excessive blood loss. But the worst part was that the hospital had no stock of the blood type he needed. It was me who broke the hospital's rules and gave him 800 cubic centimeters of my blood. After the blood transfusion, due to my physical weakness, I knocked over the hot water kettle on the table, leaving a scar on my arm that could never be removed. At the time, a colleague joked, with such a big scar, what will you do if you can't get married in the future? Still not fully conscious, he mumbled, I'll marry you. I took it as a joke and didn't take it to heart, but later, my husband still recognized me as the little nurse who saved his life because of this scar. Because of this connection, we naturally came together, got married, had children, and have been together until now. We have been married for 16 years. I thought he wouldn't doubt me just because of a heartfelt comment from our second child, but he couldn't wait to roll up Wu Xiaoya's sleeve. When he saw that Wu Xiaoya indeed had a scar on her arm identical to mine, he gripped her hand even tighter. Where did you get this scar? Wu Xiaoya nervously withdrew her hand, giving me a resentful look before saying, that was over 10 years ago, what's the point of bringing it up now? I want to know the answer. Looking at her husband's stubborn gaze, Wu Xiaoya feigned a few tears and said, back then, I saved a car accident victim, donated 800 cubic centimeters of blood to him, and accidentally knocked over a thermos, getting scalded by boiling water. He even said he would marry me. But I've waited all these years and still haven't seen him. Honey, don't listen to her, she's lying to you. I grabbed my husband's hand, trying to make him believe me, but he impatiently pushed me away. Su Meng, I never thought you would stoop to impersonating your best friend. I was shoved to the ground, and a large amount of blood flowed from beneath me. My daughter worriedly helped me up, but a sharp pain suddenly shot through my stomach. It hurts so much. Hearing my cry, my husband and Wu Xiaoya both turned their attention toward me. The two of them hurriedly helped me and took me into the operating room. I stared at Wu Xiaoya, my eyes filled with hatred. If I die, you'll be the murderer. I won't let you off even as a ghost. My husband defended her, saying, clearly, you're the one who took everything from Xiaoya, and you still show no remorse. I don't even care whose child this is anymore. Once you come out of the operating room, we're getting a divorce. Hearing his words, I closed my eyes, my heart as cold as ashes. The surgery lasted a full hour, and the child's heartbeat echoed in my mind the entire time, but this time, he was speaking to me. He, your husband's love for you is nothing special, you wicked woman, still trying to get rid of me. I'm telling you, you'll never be able to shake me off. Once you're discharged from the hospital, I'll make sure your parents leave you too. I'll make you a woman no one wants. What a wicked second child. He is clearly my own son, yet he has been scheming to harm me, as if I had committed some heinous act that outraged both gods and men. Before losing consciousness, I couldn't help but ask him why he was doing this to me, but he didn't say a word. It wasn't until the anesthesia wore off that the doctor handed me a glass of water and said, fortunately, the child is very resilient and is now out of danger, but still needs to be hospitalized for observation for a while. Looking at that glass of clear water, I suddenly felt a sense of clarity. I finally understood what this second child's true feelings were all about. In the days that followed, I lived very comfortably. During this time, the second child would occasionally provoke me with a few words, as if he really hoped I would get so angry that I would abort him, but I refused to give him what he wanted. I let him grow healthily in my womb. I didn't even try to painfully win back my husband when I received the divorce papers. Instead, I signed my name with a flourish. Not long after the divorce, my husband proposed to Wu Xiaoya. On the day we set the wedding date, Wu Xiaoya called me, Meng Meng, I've already told Yicheng that the child in your belly isn't his. It was only out of sisterly affection that I helped you fake the report. For the sake of Yicheng's reputation, I advise you to get rid of this child as soon as possible, otherwise, we'll make sure everyone knows about your affair during the marriage, turning you into a public disgrace. Faced with her threats, I agreed verbally, but behind the scenes, I was taking all sorts of supplements, raising my second baby to be plump and healthy. Just as her due date approached, Wu Xiaoya, who was in the middle of her wedding ceremony, suddenly received my video call. Hey, happy wedding, may you be together for 100 years. When she saw my prominently bulging belly, a look of horror appeared on her face. The next second, she decisively abandoned Song Yicheng, who was holding the wedding ring, and within less than half an hour, she rushed into my hospital room and knelt down before me. Meng Meng, why haven't you gotten rid of this child yet? There's no time left. I beg you, please get rid of him quickly. Okay, as long as you agree to get rid of him, I'll return your husband to you immediately. I gently stroked my round belly and smiled. Are you kidding? You're almost due. How can you abort? Legally, he already has human rights. If I abort him now, that's murder, and I could go to jail. She anxiously bit her lip, frantically searching for a suitable excuse for me. It's okay, I'll perform the surgery myself. I won't tell anyone, as long as no one knows. It's not illegal. Aren't you tired of him always saying all sorts of strange things? Just get rid of him, and I promise you'll never have to hear those words again. I knew it. He was fully aware of what was going on with the second child's inner voice all along. Watching her anxious expression, I felt an immense sense of satisfaction. I used to be annoyed, it's true, but now that I have no family left by my side, I suddenly feel that having him around to chat with me is actually quite nice. As soon as I finished speaking, a series of hurried footsteps echoed from outside the door. My wonderful ex-husband has arrived. The moment Song Yicheng saw Wu Xiaoya kneeling before me, he immediately assumed I was bullying her. He scooped Wu Xiaoya up in one swift motion and began shouting at me, Su Meng, I never imagined you could be so malicious. Tell me, what did you threaten Xiaoya with? This time, to make her give up her wedding and come kneel before you. We've been married for 16 years, this marriage has seen its share of arguments and conflicts, as well as sweetness and happiness, but never before have I felt as utterly disgusted by him as I do at this moment. It really is just a matter of a moment when love fades away. I stared at him coldly and sneered. I didn't threaten her. Get out of my hospital room with your precious wife right now. Better be that way. He tried to pull Wu Xiaoya away, but her feet seemed rooted to the ground, and she simply refused to leave. Cheng, you have to make her get an abortion. Now it was Song Yicheng's turn to be full of question marks. Why, are you worried that this child will affect our future children? Wu Xiaoya shook her head, but she seemed to have something she couldn't bring herself to say. She certainly couldn't tell the truth. After hemming and hawing for a long time, she finally put on a show and said, The existence of this child is a stain on your life's path. How could you let him be born safely? I was really getting a bit impatient. If I remember correctly, Song Yicheng and I are already divorced. The child in my belly has nothing to do with him. It's my own creation. You have no right to decide his fate. Song Yicheng thought for a moment and said, Su Meng is right. We really don't have the right to interfere. Wu Xiaoya was on the verge of tears. She clung tightly to Song Yicheng's arm, pleading desperately, Yicheng, I'm begging you. Please help me for the sake of saving your life. I can't let her second child be born. But, he seemed hesitant, but Wu Xiaoya tightened her grip on his hand even more. I'll explain the reason to you later. Su Meng definitely still loves you now. As long as you go up and say a few nice words, she'll definitely agree to abort this child. Unfortunately, she ultimately overestimated Song Yicheng's position in my heart, until the second time, when he gave up on our 16-year relationship. Because of that so-called inner voice, he became nothing to me. As I watched Song Yicheng's gaze gradually soften toward me, a strong sense of disgust welled up in my heart. Ugh, the second child wasn't entirely wrong. You really are foolish. You believed the so-called second child's inner voice, wrongfully accused me of cheating during our marriage, and made me leave with nothing. What makes you think I still love you? Upon learning that I could also hear the inner voice, Song Yicheng's pupils widened sharply. You can hear it too. I didn't answer his question, instead continuing with a cold laugh. If you don't acknowledge the child in my belly, then he has nothing to do with you. I didn't want to look at them anymore and told my daughter to kick them out, but Wu Xiaoya suddenly charged forward, and in her hand, she now held a dagger. Since you won't agree, I'll kill you and the child. I had long anticipated she would resort to extreme actions, so I dodged her with a swift sidestep. Song Yicheng and his daughter, standing nearby, were both dumbfounded. Frowning, I shouted at Song Yicheng, "What are you still standing there for? Your wife has gone mad. Have you lost your mind too? Drag her out of here immediately, otherwise, I'll make sure you both rot in prison." Song Yicheng belatedly hugged Wu Xiaoya tightly. As she left the hospital room, she glared at me with eyes full of hatred. "Let go of me. This woman is going to ruin me. She can't be allowed to give birth to this child." After the door finally closed, I let out a deep sigh of relief. Fortunately, Wu Xiaoya didn't dare to tell the truth, otherwise, I really couldn't be sure whether Song Yicheng would help her harm me. But just as I was about to lie down and rest properly, I noticed that the dagger Wu Xiaoya had dropped on the ground was actually gone. My heart tightened once again. Could it be that Song Yicheng picked it up? Before I could find the answer, my daughter took the missing dagger and plunged it straight into my stomach. I cried out in agony, but my second child burst into wild laughter. "Ha ha ha ha, well done." I stared at my daughter in disbelief. "Jia, why would you do this?" Blood dripped from the dagger onto her hand, her face turning deathly pale as she finally realized what she had done. Yet, in response to my questioning, she didn't answer but instead asked, "Mom, you were the one who broke your promise first. Have you forgotten what you said back then? You said you wanted to abort this child, to make me your most beloved daughter, but now, why are you going to such lengths to give birth to him?" I endured the intense pain and quietly pressed the nurse call button behind me, then explained to her, "Jia, the reason your father and I are getting divorced is all because of this child. Only by giving birth to him can I clear my name. Do you really believe Mom is the kind of woman who would cheat during marriage?" A flicker of confusion passed through her eyes, yet she still forced herself to put on a brave face and insisted, "Mom, I just graduated from college. I don't want to sacrifice everything for this child." I didn't understand what she meant and looked at her in confusion. "What are you talking about? What do you mean by risking everything for you?" She smiled bitterly and said, "Mom, stop pretending." I clearly heard this second child say, "Because Dad refuses to pay child support, you plan to make me raise this second child, and you won't let me get married and have my own children until I've raised them to adulthood. I see." I feel as if all the blood in my body has frozen at this moment. Ever since the divorce, it has been my daughter who has stayed by my side day and night in the hospital. Even under my deterrence, the second child dared not talk nonsense in front of my daughter, but I still overlooked one fact, that is, after I fell asleep, she could still sow discord between my daughter and me through her inner thoughts. I was careless. At this point, all I could do was sneer and say, "Why are you all like this?" One after another, your father heard this so-called second child's voice, convinced that I had cheated and betrayed him, and didn't even believe the paternity test. "And you too, just because of a few baseless words from the second child, you want to kill your mother." Seeing the despair in my eyes, my daughter seemed to realize the problem. "But he's the child in your belly. There's no reason for him to slander you. Right, it's precisely because of this that he has so accurately manipulated my husband and daughter, leaving me in the situation I am now. What if I told you that all of this second child's inner voice is something Wu Xiaoya created, with the goal of stealing my husband and making me lose everyone's trust? Would you believe me?" I don't know. He. Su Meng, you're such a failure as a person. Your daughter wants to kill her own brother." Upon hearing the voice of the second child, I angrily scolded, "Shut up, don't think I don't know what you're scheming." As soon as I finished speaking, there was a rapid knocking at the door. "Ms. Su, please open the door," I quickly said to my daughter. "Jia, hurry and open the door. Mom can't hold on much longer." My daughter was still in a daze. The door," I shouted in a rage. "If I die, you'll be a murderer. Do you want to spend the rest of your life in prison?" Perhaps those words finally made her come to her senses. She quickly opened the door to the hospital room. The nurse took one look at me and shouted anxiously, "It's not good. Someone come quickly. The mother in room 202 has been stabbed and is bleeding a lot." As I was being wheeled into the operating room, I used my last bit of strength to grab the doctor's sleeve. "Doctor, I beg you, you must save this child. This child is the final weapon to fight back against Wu Xiaoya. I can't let anything happen to him." "Mom, I'm sorry." My daughter looked at my deathly pale face and cried uncontrollably, but I only managed to give her one last glance before losing consciousness. My eyes filled with disappointment. During the surgery, all sorts of strange sounds echoed in my ears. There were all sorts of curses directed at me for having a second child. there were cheers of encouragement from doctors and nurses. I even heard Wu Xiaoya's voice. She sneered at me like a victor, saying, "Su Meng, you can't beat me. If I were you, I would have killed myself long ago. Why bother living in this world?" It was precisely because of her words that my final will to survive was ignited. I refuse to accept this. I have lived through 2 lifetimes, why should I end up with the same tragic fate as my previous life? I suddenly opened my eyes, and after seeing the bright fluorescent light above my head, I took deep, gasping breaths. The doctor, overjoyed, handed me a child and said, "Congratulations, the surgery was a great success, it's a very healthy son." I took my son, he was already asleep, but from his features, one could see that he resembled Song Yicheng by 50% and me by 30, and that annoying inner voice suddenly disappeared, just as I had expected. As long as I safely gave birth to a son, there would be no more strange inner voices. My daughter stood outside the hospital room, watching eagerly. She looked very haggard, as if she hadn't slept for several days. I turned to the nurse and asked, "Nurse, how many days have I been unconscious?" 2 days. I looked at the dark circles under my daughter's eyes. It seemed she had been on edge for 2 days as well. In the end, I still couldn't bring myself to ignore her. I waved to her and said, "Jejia, come here." Jejia pursed her lips and spoke with difficulty, "Mom, I'm too ashamed to face you." Holding my son, I sighed and said, "You are, after all, my daughter. If you've done something wrong, it's not just your responsibility alone. As your mother, I share that responsibility. But the bond of flesh and blood between us can never be severed in this lifetime, just like this younger brother. He is your brother, and you are his sister. The blood ties between you two are also something that can never be cut off. Don't you want to see your own brother? You can come a little closer and see if you can still hear that so-called inner voice." Hearing my words, my daughter gritted her teeth and walked over. It was at that moment that my son suddenly opened his eyes. He looked at his daughter and actually smiled. The daughter also smiled. "Mom, he's so cute." I stroked my daughter's head and said, "Mom never thought she would sacrifice your interests for this child. And Mom isn't old enough to rely on you, who just graduated from college, to support the family and raise the child." The daughter once again shed tears of guilt. "Mom, I'm sorry, I was wrong." After reconciling with my daughter, Song Yicheng actually brought Wu Xiaoya to the hospital. "Su Meng, what on earth is going on? Why has Xiaoya ended up like this?" Looking at Wu Xiaoya sitting in the wheelchair, dazed and foolish, I smiled and said, "Song Yicheng, has she gone crazy? You're asking me, how would I know? You should go to a psychiatric hospital." But Xiaoya said it was all your doing, and the doctor checked and said Xiaoya isn't sick. "My doing?" I sneered. "You believe everything she says. If she told you to eat shit, would you do it? Song Yicheng, do you have any judgment of your own?" Song Yicheng said impatiently, "At this point, what are you still hiding?" I pointed to the child beside me and said, "Your son is born, don't you want to see him?" Hearing my words, Song Yicheng curiously looked at the child in the stroller. With just one glance, he froze. The child's glabella. He looked again in shock at the glabella of the crazed Wu Xiaoya. Xiaoya originally had a red mole on her glabella, but it suddenly disappeared 2 days ago. This child, seeing that he had discovered the key to the problem, I no longer concealed it and said, "The reason Wu Xiaoya has become like this is because she is missing one soul and one spirit. A normal person's soul consists of 3 souls and 7 spirits, and the 1 soul and 1 spirit she lost are inside my son. She tried every possible way to stop me from giving birth to this child because once I successfully give birth, the 1 soul and 1 spirit that belong to her will be completely absorbed by my son. Without that 1 soul and 1 spirit, she will turn into a complete fool." "What? Are you making up a story?" Song Yicheng clearly didn't believe it. "You think it's unbelievable?" I laughed. "When you first heard the thoughts of the second child, why didn't you find that unbelievable? Wu Xiaoya placed one of her own souls into my second child, just to deliberately create inner voices and drive a wedge between us as a couple. All those so-called inner voices of the second child, every single word was spoken by her. If it weren't for that glass of water, I might never have guessed that Wu Xiaoya had resorted to mystical means." I carefully recalled that the first time I heard those inner voices was the day I drank the water Wu Xiaoya handed me, so I immediately asked a friend to help me find a master, and that's how I learned that there was an extra soul in the child in my womb, and that extra soul and spirit belonged to Wu Xiaoya. Although this soul and spirit couldn't harm me or the child, they were capable of creating so-called inner voices, disrupting my entire life. Seeing his incredulous expression, I grabbed Wu Xiaoya's arm and pointed out the burned scar on it. This burn scar was clearly designed by a doctor for cosmetic surgery so she could replace me. You can check at any hospital, and they'll confirm it was done recently. This is the whole truth." Song Yicheng took a step back in disbelief. In fact, if he just carefully sorted through all these events, he would be able to spot the suspicious points. If I really had stolen Wu Xiaoya's credit for saving someone, why would I have introduced him to my best friend as someone who never touches a drop of alcohol? How could I possibly go looking for a man in a bar? Even if I were to cheat, he clearly knew that everything was filled with irreconcilable doubts, yet he still believed in that baseless second child's inner voice. That's why I completely lost hope in him. Song Yicheng, this is the truth. Now take your savior and leave. Song Yicheng looked up, tears welling in his eyes, and confessed, "Honey, I was wrong before. Can we get back together?" I immediately slapped him across the face. "Song Yicheng, this slap is payback for the time you pushed me." Seeing his left cheek turn red, I gave his right cheek another slap. "This slap is for my child. You don't deserve to be his father." When the third slap landed, I hit even harder. "This last slap is for me. Since we're divorced, don't expect me to look back. I'll take you back to court over the divorce. You won't get away with paying a single cent less in child support." 3 months later, I dominated the courtroom with my lawyer by my side. In the end, I walked away with my son and daughter, securing everything that was rightfully mine. In contrast, Song Yicheng, due to his marital relationship with Wu Xiaoya, could never escape the burden of caring for her, who had become mentally impaired. Wu Xiaoya had completely infiltrated his life, disrupting his family and his career. Finally, one day, Song Yicheng couldn't take it anymore and used a fruit knife to end Wu Xiaoya's life, and that fruit knife was the very one my daughter had used to stab me. When my daughter saw the news that Song Yicheng had been sentenced to death, she cried and threw herself into my arms. "Mom, I finally avenged you and my brother." After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.